Book of Heaven, Volume 18, the 16th of September to the 1st October 1925. Page 8 to 14. September 16, 1925. Jesus was always the same in his pains. To be always the same is a divine virtue. The silence of Jesus. My days are ever more bitter because of the long privations of my sweet Jesus. His will alone is left to me, as precious inheritance of the so many visits he made to my poor soul. And now I have been left alone, forgotten by the one who formed my life, so much so, that it seemed to me that we were fused together, and that neither could he be without me, nor I without him. And while I think, where did the one go who loved me so much? What have I done that he has left me? Ah, Jesus, come back, for I can take no more, and while I would like to abandon myself to sorrow, and think of my great misfortune of having lost the one in whom I had enclosed all my hopes and my happiness, the holy divine volition imposes itself on me, making me follow the course of my acts in his adorable will. And it almost prevents me from grieving more for being without my only good. So I remain as though petrified, intrepid, all alone, without the slightest comfort, either from heaven or from the earth. Now, while I was in this state, I was thinking about various pains of the Passion of Jesus, who, making himself seen for a little while, told me, "My daughter, in all my pains I was always the same, I never change. My gaze was always sweet, my face always serene, my words always calm and dignified. In my whole person I had such equality of manners, that if they had wanted to recognize me as their Redeemer, merely by my way, always the same, in everything and for everything, they would have recognized me. It is true that my pains were so many as to eclipse me and surround me like many clouds, but this says nothing. After the heat of the pains, I would reappear in the midst of my enemies like majestic sun, with my usual serenity, and with my same manners, always equal and peaceful. To be always the same is only of God, and of the true children of God. The way that is always equal to itself impresses the divine character in the soul, and reveals the operating of creatures as pure and holy. On the other hand, a changing character is of creatures, and it is a sign of passions that roar within the human heart, that tyrannize it, in such a way as to show an unpleasant character also on the outside, which displeases everyone. Therefore, I recommend to you that you be always the same, with me, with yourself, and with others, the same in the pains, and even in my very privation. The unchanging character must be indelible in you, and even though the pains of my privation knock you down and form the clouds of sorrow inside and outside of you, your unchanging manners will be light which will dispel these clouds, and will reveal how, though hidden, I dwell within you. After this, I continued to think about the pains of the Passion of my adorable Jesus, with the nail of his privation in my heart, and my lovable Jesus made himself seen in my interior, all taciturn and so afflicted as to arouse pity. And I said to him, "My love, why are you silent? It seems to me that you don't want to tell me anything any more, nor confide to me your secrets and your pains any longer." And Jesus, all goodness, but afflicted, told me, "My daughter, being silent says something greater than what speaking says. To be silent is the decision of one who, not wanting to be dissuaded, keeps silent. The silence of a father with a beloved son of his, while in the midst of other unruly sons, is a sign that he wants to strike the perverted sons. Do you think it is nothing that I do not come to you and that I am sparing in the sharing of my pains with you? Ah, my daughter, it isn't nothing, on the contrary, it is something great. As I do not come to you, my justice becomes filled with scourges in order to strike man, so much so, that all the past evils, the earthquakes, the wars, will be as nothing compared to the evils which will come, and to the great war and revolution which they are preparing. Sins are so many that men do not deserve that I share my pains with you in order to free them from the scourges deserved. Therefore, have patience, my will make up for my visible presence, though I remain hidden in you. And if it were not so, you could not have kept the pace in doing your usual rounds in my will. It is I who, though hidden, do them within you, and you follow the one whom you do not see. However, once my justice has completed the filling of scourges, I will be with you like before. Therefore, courage, wait for me and do not fear." Now, while he was saying this, I found myself outside of myself, in the midst of the world. In almost all nations one could see preparations for war, new more tragic ways of fighting, which struck fright at the mere sight, and then, the great human blindness which, becoming yet more blind, acted like a beast, not like a man, and because it was blind, it could not see that, while wounding others, it wounded itself. Then, all frightened, I found myself back inside myself, all alone, without my Jesus, and with the nail in my heart that the one whom I love had departed from me, leaving me alone and abandoned. And while I raving and agonizing because of the pain, my sweet Jesus, moving in my interior and sighing because of my hard state, told me, "My daughter, calm yourself, I am within you, I do not leave you. And besides, how can I leave you? Look, my will is everywhere. If you are in my will, I do not know where to go, nor do I find a place in order to move away from you. I would have to render my will limited and gather it in one point in order to leave you, but I cannot do this either. My immensity extends everywhere, and my nature renders all that belongs to me immense. Therefore, immense is my will, my power, my love, my wisdom, etc. So, how can I leave you if I find you everywhere in my will? Therefore, be sure that I do not leave you, and plunge yourself ever more deeply into the immensity of the abyss of my will." October 1, 1925. The divine will is the center of the humanity of our Lord. One who lives in it lives in this center. I was accompanying the pains of the passion of my sweet Jesus according to my usual way, and I offered the very privation of him and the torture it caused me, as attestation of my sorrowful love, for his relief and as compassion for his pains. Now, while I was doing this, my beloved good moved one arm within my interior, raising his right hand and letting rivulets of blood and of light flow from his fingers over my poor soul, which was withered and burned by the powerful blowing of his privation, and with such sadness that Jesus himself was shaken, and moved to compassion, wanting to cheer me, he said to me, "My daughter, courage, do not fear. One who lives in my will is in the center of my humanity, because the divine will is in me like the sun within its sphere. Even though the rays invade the earth, it never departs from up high, from its center. It remains always encircled within its sphere, in its majestic throne, and while its light reaches everywhere, dominating everything, everything serves as its footstool, as all await its beneficial light. So was my divine will within me, like center in the sphere of my humanity, and from my sphere started the light, reaching everyone in every place. This had been the first act of man, to reject my supreme will. Therefore it was appropriate for my humanity to take the first step toward it, centralizing this eternal will within me, as center of life, and bringing it to man once again, through my life, my works and pains, so that he might return to his Creator, placing himself in the order for which he had been created. Do you see, then, my daughter? The soul who lives in my will is in the center of my humanity, and everything I did and suffered is all around her, and for her help. If she is weak, it administers to her my strength. If shaded, my blood washes her and embellishes her. My prayers sustain her. My arms hold her tightly and cover her with my works. In sum, everything is for her defense and help. This is why the thought of my pains is as though natural in you, because, since you live in my will, they surround you like many clouds of light and of grace. Within the sphere of my humanity, my will placed my works, my steps, my words, my blood, my wounds, my pains, and everything I did, as though on the way, in order to call man and give him sufficient aids and means to save him and to make him come back again into the womb of my will. If my will had wanted to enter the field on its own in order to call man, he would have been frightened. Instead, I wanted to call him with everything I did and suffered, like many enticements, pushes, encouragements and means, to make him return into my arms. So, everything I did and suffered is the carrier of man to God. Now, one who lives in my will, by living in the center of my humanity, takes all the fruits of everything I did and suffered, and enters the order of creation, and my will fulfills in him the full purpose for which he was created. Others, then, who do not live in my will, find the means to be saved, but do not enjoy all the fruits of creation and of redemption. Now, while my lovable Jesus was saying this, I said to him, "My love, I don't know, you tell me that I live in your will, and then you leave me? Ah, what a hard martyrdom you make me go through. As you leave me, everything changes for me, I myself no longer recognize myself. everything dies for me, the light dies, the love, the good. You alone maintain the beating of life in my poor soul. As soon as you depart and leave me, everything dies. See, then, in what hard and painful conditions you leave me. Oh please, have pity on me and do not leave me any more, for I can take no more. And while I wanted to say more, my Jesus, sighing, added, My daughter, be quiet, do not go any further, your words wound my heart. Oh, how I would like to remove from your heart this nail so hard, that I leave you, that I might leave you. I too know that, for one who loves me, this nail is unbearable, it kills one continuously, without pity. Therefore, lay down the thought that I might leave you. You should be convinced that, instead of leaving you, I penetrate more deeply into you, and I remain silent in the little ship of your soul. And this is so true, that nothing has moved within you. The preparations that were there, are still there. They are all in the order, so much so, that it is enough for my will to want it, and I give a little spin to the preparations which are there, and quickly I am with you. And besides, how can I leave you? One who does my will and lives in it maintains whole the bonds of creation which exist between creator and creature, the bonds of redemption, and the bonds between the sanctifier and the ones who are being sanctified. My will seals all these bonds and renders the creature inseparable from me. Therefore, be sure that your Jesus does not leave you. Now, while he was saying this, I saw as though many threads of light bound to my heart. Some of them were bound to all the created things. Other threads of light were coming out from all that Jesus had done and suffered, others from the sacraments. May everything be for the glory of God, and for the good of my soul and of all souls. Amen.